Greetings, my fellow musical rhododendrons. Jakob Peck here yet again with another super duper guitar music theory fretboard mastery class. Thank you for being here. So I once spoke of V1 chords. Then there was an excursion into the mystery of V2 chords. Today, my friends, we will take a deep dive into V3 chords. A very cool sound, an underutilized sound. Let's get into it. Now remember, a V1 7th chord is voiced 1, 3, 5, 7 in root position. V1. A V2 7th chord is voiced 1, 5, 7, 3, or 1, 5, 7, 3. The third now being an octave higher. Now a V3 7th chord in root position is voiced 1, 3, 7, 5. It is now the fifth that has been moved up one octave. This is certainly a less common voicing among guitarists, and for a number of reasons. Yet, at the same time, I would say that these reasons are reason enough to give these chords a little more attention. The interval relationship of V3 chords puts a tighter interval stack on the bottom end of the chord. Because of this, V3 harmonies can get a little muddy in the lower area of the neck, especially as we start to explore some of the inversions of V3 chords. That said, these chords can have a miraculous effect, especially higher up on the fretboard. Another valuable quality of V3 7th chords is that their root position shape teaches us a form of what are commonly called shell voicings. Shell voicings contain only the root, third, and seventh of a chord, conveying only its essential harmonic quality. With V3 chords in root position, we get that shell voicing in the low end of the chord, and the fifth of the chord sounding in a higher register. Something like this, or, right? Or maybe, right, these sorts of sounds. It's a bit more common to have the third of this chord up an octave, like so. Alright, so instead of an E down here, you got the E up here. Alright, so instead of, this, it's more common to have the third up an octave, give you something like this. But today is not about those chords. Today is all V3, baby. And if you are very interested in understanding harmony in a deeper way, a more insightful way, and a more liberating way, check out the free class in the description below. It's about the essences of harmony and how those essences can help us understand the whole thing and get it on the fretboard. Anyway, back to V3 chords. Here we go. So V3 chords help us not only learn these shell voicings, but also how to add a voice or two or more to the shell in order to embellish it or expand the harmony. For instance, here's an E major 7 shell with the fifth on top. All right, so there's my V3 voicing of an E major 7 chord. I can alter what that top note. Instead of a fifth, how about a sixth? Or a flat 5, or a 4, or doubling the third. Alright, seeing that shell and the various extensions we can put on top of it or in relation to it. And of course, thinking, beyond just the B string, what about the E string? And combining the B and the E string, something like this. of course we can add the G string because it's there. And being able to interpret all of that in relation to the shell, that underlying, right, that 1, 3, 7, 1, 3, major 7, fifth, major 7 on top, adding the 9 on the G string, all in relation to that shell. Anywho, here are some root position V-3 7th chords on the E, A, D, and B string. Now in the diagrams here, I have it voiced down here. But as I mentioned, these chords can get a bit muddy, right? So I'm going to voice them above the 12th fret, okay? But either way is fine. I mean, this is a cool chord. These are cool sounds down here. But you got to be careful about that low end. It's overbearing, right? So listen to this, and putting that up an octave, a little easier on the ears, right? That higher register. So I'm going to go through these a little higher up. Let's take a look at these shapes and see what's going on. 2, 3. We got diminished 7, right? Into the 6, dominant 7, and see all those shells on the bottom? What's this shell? Alright, that's a minor 6 shell. I got the 1, the flat 3, and the 6, and the 5th up there. A minor 7 shell with the 5th up top. Shell, 5th. Half diminished. Minor major 7. This is fun. Oh my gosh, is it fun? Yeah. 7 flat 5. That's tricky. Sharp 5. Flat 5. Major 7 augmented. I'll finish on a 6. 9. Because who don't like 6, 9? You know what I'm saying? Plenty of people. Okay, so there I was just going through those root position V3 chords. You know, someone requested I talk about the scales over this. I'm just going to do a pass on that. Sorry, but let's do it. We'll do a pass. Talk about the scales. So G6. I'm just thinking major, pentatonic even. G7. I'll do a little Mixolydian. How about Lydian dominant? For that G7, right? G major 7, just thinking major, nothing special. G minor 6, might think Dorian. I might think melodic minor. Love those shells. Yeah, just that lower end, it's so much body, right? And the top part, you know, if you're trying to put a melody in there, you can do it. If you're not, don't. Just dig the body of that lower end, right? That shell. Okay, G minor 7, I'll think Dorian. Or the blues. G half diminished. I like to arpeggiate this one. Ooh. Or you could think, you know, G Locrian. If you're feeling that. What else could you think, right? Remember, half diminished is a minor 6 chord as well. What's G half diminished? It's B flat. Minor 6. So I could do some B flat. Minor. Right over good old G half diminished. Keep going. We got G minor major 7. And here I'm thinking melodic minor. 7 flat 5. It's tough up here. Got to grab it another way. Alright. Lydian dominant, right? Where are we going? 7 sharp 5, right? Mixolydian flat 6. Alright. Or arpeggiate. something augmented, right? Where are we at? Where are we at? Major 7 flat 5. Lydian. Again. Forgive me. Again. One more. Sharp the 5. Lydian. Augmented. So anyway, that was a brief aside. Those are our root position V3 chords, right? And notice the particular quality about them is that the 3rd and the 7 are in the same octave as the root. The 3rd and the 7 are in the same octave as the root in root position, and the 5th is higher up, right? But guess what? There are more inversions to go. So let's go to the next inversion. Here we go. Starting with G diminished 7 in first inversion. G6, 7, major 7. Now notice in that 6th chord, that 7th chord, that major 7 chord, the bottom 3 notes, that's just a G major triad right there, right? G major triad in first inversion, 3rd, 5th root. And now what's going on top, right? We're putting the extension on top, whether it's the 6, flat 7, the major 7, and now on to minor. Here's our minor triad on the bottom, and the 6 on top, the 7. Now here we're going to a half diminished, right, or minor 7 flat 5. So I have to flat the 5, giving me that. Here's our minor major 7, 7 flat 5. This one quite a doozy. All right, the 3rd, flat 5, root, flat 7. All right, here's the sharp 5. All right, almost done. Major 7, flat 5. And then major 7, sharp 5. And let's finish with... Okay, so those were all of the V3 chords we were looking at in first inversion. And this interval stack, remember, is 3rd, 5th, root, and the 7 on top, or the 6, right? The minor 3rd, the 5th, the root, and then whatever kind of 7th or 6th on top, etc. Essentially the respective 3, 5, 1, and the 7 in the higher register. In first inversion, the 5th was in the higher register. Now the 7th, or 6th, or the 4th note of the chord is in the higher register. On to the next inversion we go. So now we are in second inversion of these V3 7th chords, starting again with this G diminished, a G diminished 7 in second inversion. This is a very cool interval configuration. We have the 5th on the bottom, followed by the 7 or 6, followed by the 3rd, and on the top of the chord is the root. So you'll notice in this set of voicings, the top voice never changes. And that's actually a good question to ask yourself when you go through these is, where's the root and can I see that it is persisting? Of course, in root position, that's pretty obvious, but in the inversions, it might not be. So ask yourself, can you see that through line, that thread of that note? It's a little easier too when it's on top. So here's our G diminished 7, G6, raising the 6 to the 7, G major 7, now G minor 6, G minor 7, a half diminished, augmented major 7, or minor 7, pardon me, let me say that one again, that's G minor major 7, G7 flat 5, that root on top G7 sharp 5, major 7, flat 5, major 7 sharp 5. Let's finish with where we started, diminish. Now you may be listening to these and going, ooh, I just don't know if they're going to be practical. Can I use them? I guarantee you can. We'll get to it. I just want to show you all these. I want to show you all these silly shapes, and hopefully, you can start to see some logic in them. There is a coherence to them, right? That tight packet on the bottom, that tight packet gives you a lot. Even with all of these chords, thinking about, you got the root on top. What if you leave the root out and just go through these? We could think of them as alternate shells in a sense, right? It's the shell of the 5th, 7th or 6th, and 3rd of the chord. It's a cool sound. Just doing the lower end. And we're back after a brief costume change, and we are finally looking at the 4th. No, that's not correct. We are finally looking at the 3rd inversion of these chords. So now the 7th or 6th is in the bottom. The interval stack here is 7, 1, 5, and now the 3rd is in the higher octave, the higher register. Let's give these a listen. It's really that tight interval of the 7 and the root on the bottom that gives these their character. Once again, we're starting with that G diminished situation, right, which is also B flat diminished and D flat diminished, etc. But we're interpreting it as G because all of these chords we've been looking at are G chords, and we're starting with G diminished, G6, G7, major 7, minor 6, minor 7, half diminished. These are getting tricky. Minor major 7. Oh boy, minor major 7. It's alright, that tight 7th and root on the bottom, but it's cool. It's monkey. 7 flat 5, 7 sharp 5, major 7 flat 5, major 7 sharp 5. Those are kind of tricky. Let's end with the 6th chord. And there we have it. That was every inversion of these V3 chords on this string set, the E, A, D, and B string. So now just to get a sense of the sequence of inversions, I'm going to pick a chord. We're going to do G7, and I'm just going to go through the inversions. 1, 2, a dibbity dabbity boo. We got root position. First inversion. Next inversion. And finally. And we're back. Something to notice about these 3rd inversion shapes is on top of it, generally you're going to have a major chord or a minor chord, and the respective 7th on the bottom, right? So notice that with those 3rd inversion chords, that the top 3 notes is just giving you a basic either minor chord or major chord and maybe a diminished chord. Right. It's just a matter of grokking what the 7th is on the bottom. There's my G major with a major 7 on the bottom, flat 7, G6, right, G flat 6. Anyway, yeah. Now something that's super handy dandy about this set of chords is on the next string set, that is the A, D, G, and E string, it's the same shapes. The chords are the same shape. So even as we switch string sets, with this particular configuration, we get to keep the shape. For instance, we were looking at G7 like this. It's the same thing on the next string set, albeit an octave higher. Right, so I gotta do it to you. We're gonna run these. We're gonna do it in C though. Here's diminished to root position 3 and And I would say these are more common. I think the thinness of this string set makes them a little more palatable as chords. Flat 5, sharp 5, major 7, flat 5, major 7, sharp 5, go to 6. Next inversion, 1, 2, 3, and 6, 7, major 7, minor 6, minor 7, here we go, half diminished. As you do this, you want to try and keep track of the intervals, right? What is shifting, what is where. This is hard, 3, and 7 sharp, flat 5, 7 sharp 5, major 7, flat 5. I like that. Major 7, sharp 5. I'm going to throw in the open B string just to be a cool guy. And that's the great thing about playing guitar. You get to be cool, you know, if you can play. If you can't really play well, you just get to be lame. So try and play well and be cool. Next inversion, 2, 3, 4. We got the 5th in the bass. Here's C6. 7. Major 7. Minor 6, tricky stuff. Minor 7. Half diminished. Minor major 7. 7 flat 5, oh boy. Pretty cool. 7 sharp 5. Right, that root on top never changes. Incessantly. Last inversion, 7ths in the bottom, 1, 2, ready, and. Major 7. These are tough, but they're cool. Minor 7, half diminish. Minor major 7. One more time. Now here's that 7 flat 5. 7 sharp 5. Major 7 flat 5. Pinky's working overtime. Major 7 sharp 5. I'm going to resolve to an F chord just for fun. I don't like it. Now look, that's very handy dandy that this shape persists across string sets. That's certainly not typically the case on the guitar, but here, because of the universe and stuff, it works. Now, as I mentioned earlier, these chords can get a bit muddy in the lower end, but still this is a very valuable set of voicings that can really shed some light on the instrument, as well as open some very novel melodic and harmonic possibilities. Now, as I mentioned earlier, notice for both of these voicings, there is that unplayed string, be it the G string, or be it the B string. And as super duper cool guitar player musician people, we want to be able to utilize that string to make cool things happen, right? So if I'm grabbing a G7 on this string set, my question is, what can I do with that B string? I could add the flat 9. I could add the 9. I could add the flat 10, yeah. That's right, fools. Flat 10, baby. Flat 10. I can add the flat 10. I could also just double up on that 3rd. That's tough, right? So when you're grabbing these, whatever the chord is, ask yourself, what can I do with that empty string? What can I do to embellish the harmony, or to maybe I want to reiterate a note that's already in the chord, or maybe I want to add an extension, right? See what your physiology gets you. See what's under your hand right there, right? If I got this G6, I can just bar and I got a G6 flat 9. What if I do it over here? I got my G6. I'm in a bar. I got a G9. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. So we've been playing all these chords pretty much out of context, right? We're just vamping on them, hanging out in the key of G or C. But now let's put them in an actual harmonic situation, a harmonic, contextual reality of life, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to do nothing but V3 chords, but we're going to do 2-5-1s. Let's give that a shot. So we're going to be in the key of F. That means G is our 2 chord. 1, 2, here we go. G minor, C7, F, G minor, C7, F. How about this? Oh. Keeping it rolling, and so those are some 2-5-1s in the key of F, only using V3 chords. Now, as I mentioned just a moment ago, we want to see if we can add something on that empty string, right? See what extension or extra note we can add. So I'm going to run them again, but this time I'm going to add a pitch on that empty string. 1, 2, 3, and. Keeping it going, 3, and. And 2, 3, and. A boom, 2, a 3, and. All right. How about some minor 2-5-1s using only V3 chords, right? So we're going to have a half diminished to a altered dominant of some kind to a minor resolution. Let's try it. 1, 2. 1, 2, ready, and. Keeping it rolling, 3, and. 2, 3, and. One more time, it's. Last 1, 2, 3, and. And. One more time, a 1, 2, 3, and. All right, so now similarly, I'm going to approach these minor 2-5-1s and see if I can add an extension or an extra note on some of those empty strings. 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, and. 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 One more time. Two, 3, and. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, and. So I was trying to take you through some of the inversions there and just looking at these more common chord progressions, 2-5-1, minor 2-5-1, but only using V3 situations, right? Now, last but not least, let's go ahead and play the blues, but only use V3 chords. All right, we're going to do a blues in G, and we're only going to be using V3 chords. Here we go. The V3 blues, if you will. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, and. One more time. All right, well, there you have it. A foray into the sound and shape of V3 chords on the guitar. A lesser used but certainly beautiful, enigmatic, and enlightening sound on the instrument. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you got a lot of insight, value, and inspiration from today's class. Please do liketh, shareth, subscribeth, ringeth the bell. This is very helpful and much appreciated. If you would like to support me and my mission to rock on eternally, you can leave a tip via the link to my offshore bank account in the description below. And last but not least, if you are a musician and are eager and ready to take your playing, musicianship, and knowledge to completely new levels, click the link in the description below to book a chat with me, and we can explore the possibility of working together. You can also just shoot me an email, say what's up. I have a bathtub full of PDFs that will transfigure your experience of sound while elucidating for you the nature of space-time, the perceptual self, and sonic cognition. Keep on rocking, keep on rolling, and remember...